Hey, good afternoon. I had planned on uploading a video for you first thing in the morning today, but I was having a little bit of difficulty figuring out what to talk about. The house has been slowly progressing. There is primer on the walls, which is huge because it took so long to get the wallpaper off. And as you saw in the last video, we had reached that point, and then it was a day of sanding, a day of taping, a day of priming the big parts and painting the trim, and then another day of retaping to do the edging of the priming. So that's done, and tomorrow is paint. And Ulysses, our wonderful guy, says he can finish it tomorrow. If not, we'll kick in and help. We helped today doing some of the trim, but by no means the bulk of the work. Ulysses has been excellent and helped a ton and definitely is a star when it comes to the quality of his work and what he does, helping me out tremendously. I did work on the Super Seeker project and finished it, so that's ready to go to the photographers. And I'm sorry you do not get to see it because it's for the slow crawl. So Labor Day weekend is when you'll get to see what that is. Um, I did get a sneak peek at the crochet project on in the works too, and it is super cool as well. But you don't get to see it not till Labor Day weekend. And then there's the part that I've been girding my loins to talk about, but I really think we need to talk about. So this week has been just a whirlwind, right? But also, David's mother has been really ill. Now, I think most of you know I'm married to a Brit, and his mom lives in Wales, and I've done videos about that from Wales and interviewed her and so on and so forth. If you go look in the list of videos, you can find some of those videos. She's been ill, and over the weekend she ended up in the hospital. Um, and of course, we're really worried and really having a hard time getting information. And so we've scrambled and spent a heck of a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. And then she had the talk with us on the phone about how she's led a good life and it's okay if she doesn't make it. And of course, both of us start bawling because nobody wants that conversation. Nobody does. Then after she hung up, I talked to our family friend Diana, who I might have brought up before, but I'm not sure. She lives in London. She is a survivor of stage 4 colon cancer that metastasized to her liver. So that girl knows about facing death in the face. And she said to me, "No, Tina, you need to talk about it." And I may start crying now when I get to this part of the story, so bear with me. And I already cried when I told David the story, so maybe it'll be done and I don't have to do it again. But she said every time I went to my daughter's house, I was saying goodbye to everybody in the room and to her stuff. And she said I'd say goodbye to the house. I'd say goodbye to the sink. Every time I did anything, I was saying goodbye. And she goes, and I think you need to do that as you worry about dying. And she said that one day she just decided she had to talk it over with her daughter. So she sat her daughter down, who's David's age. He's 5 years younger than me, so she's 5 years younger than I am. So in her 50s. And she started to have the talk with her daughter. And she knew that her daughter wasn't going to want to hear it. And she knew that they would both get upset. But she said, I felt compelled to do it anyway. I just had to do it. So she had the conversation with her daughter, and her daughter got really upset, and she started crying and horrific. And then finally, she said at the very end of it, I think we need to go see Abba. And so she bought tickets to Abba. And then my friend Diana, she goes, best cancer present I ever got. So, and I didn't cry. I'm very happy about that. I was blubbering big time when I told David what she said. And of course, I was blubbering when Diana told me the story. But it brings me to thinking about everything I've learned as a yarn store owner. So, Kelly and I together have worked together in the yarn store for 8 years. We had a retail store for, I've been in the business for 10 years. We had a retail store for 7 or 8 of those years. And one of the things I learned a lot of things from interacting with mostly women who came into the shop. Not all. I learned from the guys too. But one of the things I did learn about is I learned about death and dying, honestly. Early on, I had a customer who was diagnosed with Cancer. And she kept doing chemo and chemo and chemo. I think it was ovarian or uterine cancer is what it was. And she'd had it and it recurred, and she had it and she recurred. It recurred over and over again. And she'd been on chemo for years. And eventually she was suffering so much just to stay alive that it wasn't worth it anymore. And she came into the shop one day and she said, I need to let go, and I don't know how I can, because my husband will be upset, my kids will be upset, and I don't know how to do this. And she didn't need anything from me. She just needed to talk about it and let it out and decide that it was time. And among many things, that was one of the most profound conversations I've ever had with a person in my life. And all of this discussion about needing to talk it over with the people you love is important. It's important and it's hard. But I really wanted to talk to you guys about it and let you know that it's really important to have these conversations and be ready, because you never know. You never know when you're going to lose somebody. And it's hard, but it's important. So I wanted to do a video, crazy me, about it, so that, you know, you could be prepared for it, or you can be prepared to have that conversation with somebody else when you think it's time. Now, I'm a huge face the facts kind of gal, and I have for years planned what's going to happen when I die. When I taught middle school, and it's changed over time. When I taught middle school, and I'm going to now be a little funny at the end of this drama. When I taught middle school, I had a live skeleton in my room to use with my junior high kids to teach them the parts of the body, especially the bones. And we didn't know she was a real skeleton. I worked in a school that had been around since the 50s, and during the 40s and 50s, there had been a military base in Moses Lake, and a lot of the chemicals, because the chem guy had them, and a lot of the other science tools, I think, had been donated by the base to the school. So in my room, I happened to inherit this skeleton, and I absolutely loved having it there because it helped kids see, when I said, here's your humerus, they could actually see a humerus on a person, on the shape of a person, right? But I assumed it was, a fake skeleton that wasn't real. And then one summer, one of my teaching neighbors, who happened to be a science major, and her husband was a vet, so he had an X-ray machine in his office, took our skeleton home. Her, because it was a she, took her home to make sure her wiring was all set up, and to investigate a little bit. So she ran her through the X-ray machine, and we discovered that summer that she had been a person, and that she was a real skeleton. And I always taught my students to treat her with respect, but when I finally realized that it was a real skeleton, we upped that quite a bit and talked candidly with the students about how she needed to be treated with respect, and that she was in the classroom to help us learn and to make sure we could become the best adults we could be. So at that time, I decided that if I ever died, that I was going to leave my bones to a middle school classroom. Well, time has marched on, and I no longer teach in a middle school, and I found a better way to go. So now my plan, did you know that you can get cremated and then send your ashes off to be turned into diamonds? That's my new plan. I'm going to be sent in to be turned into diamonds. And I guess you can have 4 or 5 diamonds made out of one body. So I've got 4 kids, and a husband. He said he wanted one too. So I'm going to make 5. And then if he doesn't die before me, if he survives me, then there'll be 5 diamonds. And each of my kids will get a piece of jewelry with me. And whether they think it haunts them or whether they think it's great, I think they kind of like it. Now they've come to terms with it. In the beginning, it was like, good God, Mom, you're morbid. But I think actually, because I've planted this seed for such a long time, I think that they like it. In fact, at one point, they were afraid that I'd changed my mind, and one of my kids said, but wait, I kind of like the idea of a diamond. I've been thinking about what I'd do with it. So that's the plan, is I'm going to be diamonds. And then I've told them that they're supposed to take me on vacation. So whenever they go on vacation, I want to go along. And I don't care if I get lost, because then I'll be on perpetual vacation. So that's my plan, and that is the bulk of this video. Death. Are you ready? Are you ready for your loved ones, or are you ready for yourself? I know it's weird, and I know it's not as yarn related as you might think, but it in fact is, because all these conversations happened because I have a yarn group, and I got to meet wonderful women who have their shit together even when I don't. So, yeah, it's great. If you don't have a yarn group, find one, because hanging out with ladies is the best thing ever, and I have made so many friends, and we support each other so much. And in fact, as a final note on this, last Saturday, because I have my Saturday group, and we started meeting again right after COVID ended. And in fact, we met during COVID, but carefully, right, for a long time. I sat down and I talked to them about how we had had some issues communicating with Jean in the UK because she was calling her friends for help, but we didn't know that there was anything wrong. She'd been sick since December, and we didn't even find out till the end of February when we happened to call and she was acutely sick. So we found out that she'd been sick, and we couldn't call her friends to find out what was going on because we didn't have anybody's phone number. We only had Jean's phone number. And if she's so sick she can't talk, how are we going to do that? So I went to knitting group last week and I said, listen, guys, you need to exchange your phone numbers with me, and I need the phone number of your kids or whoever you want me to call if you're sick. That way, if something happens to you and I'm there, I can help you with get your kids contacted. And it's so awesome. We put together a group chat and we exchanged information with each other. So I now have all of the contact information for my friends, so my knitting friends, so that if they get sick, I can make sure their kids are in the loop. Do it. Make sure that you have contact details for your parents, for your loved ones, and for yourself, because it's no joke, man. Not being able to find out what's going on with your family or being afraid that somebody's sick, it's no joke. And all because I have knitting friends. I have learned all of this. And I have a posse of people that I care about and that care about me. Don't skip it. If you've got the opportunity, find a group of gals to hang out with. And it doesn't have to be knitting. It can be crochet, it can be embroidery, it can be some other creative activity, or it can just be somebody bunko. I have a bunko group, although I'm closer with my knitting gals. Hang out, talk, socialize. COVID has really mucked us up, but it doesn't have to stay that way. We can get out and make those contacts again. All right, that's all my moaning for today and all my crying. I'll make sure and put a crying one at the top just so you guys can all see me bawling again. All right, that's it for me today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do. Ring the bell if you want to see more of me bawling. Don't like if you want to see more emotional conversations with Tina. And I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.